Hi everyone, it's Tanya and welcome to today's video. So recently I have discovered this challenge that has been on YouTube for like half a year already. It's like 2020 reading challenge, which is classic community reading challenge. And we love challenges on this channel. We embrace challenges. I thought like, this is wonderful. I want to read classics from different cultures and different countries. And so I decided to also set for myself like classics TBR for the rest of the year, for the second part of 2020. And so yeah, this video is the introduction of all the classics I want to read in the second part of 2020. I want to read classics not only from Russia, not only from like Europe. I want to read classics from all over the world, because obviously classics has been written everywhere. Brilliant books that has survived generations and centuries have been written everywhere. And so we don't want to limit ourselves by just one geographical location, do we? So that's why yes, I have classics from, obviously not from every country, but from a few countries, let's say, and also a few time periods. So I'm excited. I hope I will be able to get to all of them. And so let's begin. So first we will start obviously with Russian classics, because I'm from Russia. I read a fair share of Russian classics, obviously for school and just for myself, but there are also even more books that I haven't read. I wanted to read them now. So the first Russian classic that I want to read in 2020, like the second part of 2020, is Dr. Zhivago. I haven't read it. I know in some schools, like it's in the curriculum and they have to read it for school. In my school, we didn't. Like we kind of skipped Dr. Zhivago. So that's why I don't really know much. I just know that Pasternak received Nobel Prize for this book, but however he couldn't go and receive it because hello Soviet Union. And Communist Party was offended by this Nobel Prize. So it's a very controversial novel at that time. It is set somewhere in between 1905 October Revolution and Second World War, 35-year period. That's all I know about it. And I would love to read it. If I go to Russia, if the situation with virus improves and I will be able to go to Russia to visit my family, I will get it. I have a plan to buy like a few books, like a few Russian classics from Russia, and so I will read it obviously in Russian. One more Russian classics that I really want to read is Word Number 6 by Anton Chekhov. I haven't read this classics and it's very famous. It's so popular. Like everybody, obviously Chekhov is a huge name. I have read quite a few Chekhov's works, Cherry Orchard, Platonov, his short stories, but I have never read Word Number 6 and I need to correct that. And one more Russian classic that I also want to read. The English name is The History of a Town by Mikhail Saltykov-Shchedrin. So, I haven't read anything by Saltykov-Shchedrin. He is also quite famous. He's like this satirical writer. He mostly writes satire. And in one of his novels, he even mentions my hometown. My hometown is very small town. Like, you would never know. Russian people don't know this town. It's very small. But Saltykov-Shchedrin mentions it in one of his novels, but not this one. Not the one that I want to read. This novel, however, The History of a Town, is a fictional chronicle of a fictional town, and it was also very controversial. Like, for example, Ivan Turgenev, who is like another our classical writer, he considered it like as a brilliant work of satire and he really loved it. However, there were some critics who did not enjoy it and thought that Shchedrin did not really understand like the spirit of Russian people and stuff like that. So they criticized it a lot. So it was also quite controversial and I want to read it. Also, I haven't read Saltykov-Shchedrin. I think I tried. I think he has this novel, I don't know the English name, Господа Головлёвы. So it's like Golovlovs, the Golovlovs, something like that. I think I started it, but I never finished it. So I haven't read anything by him. So we will see if I will enjoy this book. 3 Russian classics that I really want to get to. And now we are off to classics from other countries. And the first book that I want to read is Iranian classics. This is The Blind Owl. I have already showed this book quite a lot on my channel, and this is actually on my June TBR for my Myth Taker readathon, so I will definitely get to it. And it's also very short, so it's like just 75 pages. It's very quick. It's like the major literary work of 20th century Iran, which already sounds brilliant, and it deals with like death and how death affects us as people and how it kind of shapes us, so something like that. Okay, so The Blind Owl, Iranian classics. Next one is classics from ancient Greece, and 3 books I have from ancient Greece. The first one is Lysistrata by Aristophanes. I'm not sure if I pronounce Aristophanes. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. This must be something hilarious because apparently in this book there is a war in Greece. Everybody is already tired from this war. The women, they just want the war to stop, and they decide to deny their husbands all sexual favors until they put aside their weapons. And so then, well, husbands are obviously not very much pleased with this decision. And so as the blurb puts it, the battle of the sexes begins. So I think it sounds very funny and just very interesting and brilliant, also very short, so very doable to read until the end of 2020. So this is one classic from ancient Greece. One more is Theogony, and this is basically a story of the origin of all the Greek gods. So yeah, also very short. The last ancient Greek classics that I want to get to, like for sure, by the end of 2020, is Jason and the Golden Fleece. A story of Jason's quest to find the Golden Fleece and his relationship with the daughter of, he was not the son, but he was also like some deity, daughter of this like deity, Medea. I have already like encountered this couple very briefly in Circe by Madeline Miller, and I thought it was so interesting because in this, the way it was put in Madeline Miller's work, like Medea was kind of doing everything for Jason, and Jason was kind of this useless guy. However, for some reason he is the hero, so I want to read like the original story and see like how it actually is in the original story, so we will see. Okay, and now we are down to one classic from American literature, which is Ernest Hemingway, To Have and Have Not. Don't know much about it, but it's apparently a story of like a smuggler living in America during Depression, and so he basically makes his living off his boat. He takes fishing parties, but apparently sometimes he also takes guns and drugs and smuggles them. So something like that, but must be very interesting. I have read Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway, and also his short stories of Men Without Women, and I actually really enjoyed those books, so I'm also excited to get to this one. Next one, I'm not sure if it's English or American, or I'm not sure which country it is, but it is Cider with Rosie by Lori Lee, and this must be a very vivid and warm-hearted and just light-hearted memoir of a childhood in a village, and it is perfect for me. Childhood, village, light-hearted, warm memoir. That's all I want. That's all I want from a book. I'm not asking much. So I expect to really enjoy this book. Also, I have never heard about it before. Like, I just found it on Book Depository and I just saw the cover first of all, and I'm like, this is like for me. It feels like this book is for me. So yeah, this is another classic that I want to read. One more is by Graham Greene. I just noticed, I didn't even like plan it, it just so happened that I bought 3 books by Graham Greene and I didn't really realize that they are by the same author. So 2 of the books I have already read. Recently I have read Brighton Rock by Graham Greene, and before that I read The 10th Man, also by the same author. Again, I didn't realize that it was the same author somehow. But I really enjoyed those 2 books. And so now this is the third one that I have by him, The Quiet American, and this has something to do with like American guy, idealist American sent to promote democracy through a mysterious third force. Actually, the blurb sounds really interesting. As his naive optimism starts to cause bloodshed, his friend Flower, a cynical foreign correspondent, finds it hard to stand aside and watch. But even as he intervenes, he wonders why, for the sake of politics or for love. Idealists causing bloodshed? Sounds interesting. That sounds like, you know, very interesting commentary and just, you know, interesting topic. Next classics is an Italian classics, and this is Italo Calvino, Under the Jaguar's Sun. So I have already read Into the War, and this is his like second book in the Penguin Modern Classics. And this also contains 3 short stories by this author. I really enjoyed those 3 stories, so now hopefully I will also love this. And also this book is super short and the font is super big, so hopefully it's going to be very easy and quick to read. But yeah, I really enjoyed the first book by Italo Calvino. I also know that he has a collection of Italian folklore, which I'm so interested in, but it's a little bit pricey and I'm waiting for a discount on Book Depository. Now, Japanese classics. And for Japanese classics, I have 2 books. So the first one, Yukio Mishima, Forbidden Colors. You have already seen this book in my book haul video, and it just sounds so good. Man who is a writer, and he writes about women as these perfect creatures, however actually he hates them, and then he finds this guy who is very handsome but he is a gay, and he starts using this guy to like kind of play his revenge on women. I don't know, it's just so bizarre, but also such an interesting concept, so weird. And I really want to get to it. I have never read anything by Yukio Mishima before. Sunday Times says that one of the few writers whose greatness was unquestionable. This is high praise. This is a very high praise. And I also really like Japanese literatures, what I have read so far from, which is not a lot, but a few books, and I really loved them. I'm very excited to get to this one. Must be something incredible. Now I have 2 beautiful editions from English library, and the first book that I want to read is Kim by Kipling. This must be something very interesting. It must be set in India, and it's something about relationship between this young boy, like English young boy, and this monk. That's all I know about this book. But I also read that the descriptions here are very vivid, and the picture painted in this book is like really vivid and beautiful, and you can like really see everything and feel. And I would like to see and feel India in that like time. I think like India now is a very interesting country and a very interesting culture, and a few years, like a century ago, I think it was also it was even more interesting. I'm excited to read all those descriptions. And I have also read that somebody commented that like the relationship between this boy and the monk are just brilliant in this book, and it all got me very intrigued, and so now I want to read. One more edition also from this beautiful edition from English Penguin Library is Melmoth the Wanderer, and this book sounds so brilliant as well, like judging just from the blurb, because I have never heard of this story like in my life before until I seen it on on the blurb. So it is something about a person who makes an agreement with the devil. I guess he kind of regrets it, and he wanders the world and he prays on, let me just read you the blurb because I don't remember. So, the violent, profound, baroque and blackly humorous novel in the story of Melmoth, who has sold his soul in exchange for immortality in a satanic bargain, and now preys on the helpless in their darkest moments, offering to ease their suffering if they will take his place and release him from his centuries of tortured wanderings. How brilliant does this sound? So yes, I want to get to it. One more Japanese classics, which was on my Asian Readathon TBR, but with the video that I'm doing now, it will be like published next week. I'm almost done. Like, I have to read a few books, and they are quite heavy books, so like they took me much longer to read than I anticipated, and so apparently I will not get to this book during May, but I still want to get to it. And this is Kokoro by Natsume Soseki. It's something about like professor and his life, and him like talking about his life to his students, something like that. But it's Natsume Soseki is a very beloved author in Japan. One of my friends recommended him to me, and she said that he's absolutely brilliant, and she is Japanese, so that's why I want to read the book. Now we have modern classics, published by Bloomsbury Modern Classics. The first book is Fugitive Pieces, and this is something set during Second World War or after Second World War, but like in Greece. So this boy, he comes from like Western Europe, and he lost his family, he lost like everything, and this man finds him and kind of adopts him and starts taking care of him. And so the boy learns to live again, he learns to love again, something like that. So it feels like a very heartwarming story, and also with like a very important message. And I also like recently I have discovered that the font is quite big, which means that I can read it very fast. So it's not a very big book, so I'm excited to get to it as well. One more Bloomsbury Modern Classic that I want to read is The Kite Runner by Khalid Hosseini. And this is obviously a very famous novel, everybody knows it. Many years ago I found like a graphic novel based of this book, and I really loved that graphic novel. And so, but I don't really like remember anything what happened, but I remember that I really loved that story. So now I want to read the book. And the last classics that I want to read in 2020 is Bridesheet Revisited by Evelyn Waugh. And I guess this must be an account of life of like English aristocracy in the beginning of 20th century, something like that. I might be wrong, but it's just very short. And when I was buying it, I remember I was really like fascinated by the blurb, but by now I have already forgotten what was there. But yeah, wanted to get to it because it's quite short, and the edition is so beautiful. Really like these editions, but they feel, I don't know, they're quite expensive, but at the same time they don't feel too sturdy, you know? So I don't know if I will be buying more close-bound editions, because they're obviously very beautiful and I really like the design, but they're just that they feel like they might fall apart, you know? If you are not careful with them, they might fall apart. So I don't know if I will be buying more of this, but they're so beautiful, and yeah, I want to read this book. So there you have it, guys, all the classics I want to read in the second part of 2020. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what classics do you want to read in 2020. And for now, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a very good day, and I will see you soon in my next videos. Thank you, bye.